What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a film that is a few years older now that one of you actually recommended to me. And whenever I'm recommended movies, I always look up the plot description and a little bit about it and add it into my watch list. But what really intrigued me about this movie, not only that it was an exploration of the underground music scene, but the underground music scene in Columbus, Ohio. And if you aren't familiar and you haven't watched my channel before, I am from Columbus. I've lived here most of my life, graduated from Ohio State with my film production degree. I've lived in this area for a long time, so it's always really cool to see movies come out of this area. And so I was really excited to see some young talent make a movie about the underground music scene, to see what something filmed in Columbus would look like from these young filmmakers. And I'm really excited to talk to you about the film Poser today. Poser is directed by Segev and Noah Dixon. Lennon exists timidly on the sidelines of the thriving Columbus indie music scene, yearning for a personal connection that might shepherd her into the cutting-edge art scene. Enter Bobbi Kitten, an enigmatic, striking, and talented half of a popular indie duo who takes Lennon under her confident wing, unwittingly entangling herself in a dark obsession. So, as I said, I was really excited to watch this movie, especially because it was filmed in Columbus and it's about the indie music scene, which is something I really am passionate about and love quite a bit. And I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I think that it is a very impressive directorial debut. It's a little rough around the edges, and I don't think the third act necessarily packed as heavy of a punch as they were intending. But I think despite those things, the movie is still really effective, and it's saying something that I can really get behind and appreciate. And I'm excited to tell you about the movie today. So at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Lennon, played by Sylvie, and we see her going about Columbus, going to different like art galleries and events, and she constantly has her phone on her and she's recording all of these sounds. And she talks early on about how when she records these sounds on her phone, she later then records them analog because she thinks that it sounds better. And so we see her talking to all these different people until finally she comes up with the idea that she wants to start a podcast and she wants to start interviewing local Columbus artists, indie musicians mostly, and talk to them about their process and about how they come up with writing music and just kind of build on it from there. And so we see her process early on developing these ideas for a podcast. And she also, in her free time, seemingly writes music, and she has this notepad and she's working on these songs, but she doesn't seem to have a whole lot of confidence in herself. And one day she is at a concert where there is a duo that plays in Columbus that is incredibly popular, and one of the members of the duo is Bobbi Kitten, and she is just enthralled with Bobbi, thinks that she is so talented and she's really interested in her. And so she approaches her and they spend some time together until she finally gets up the courage to ask her if they'll do an interview for her podcast. And so the entire film is the two of them start spending time together. He starts to slowly get to see the insides of the Columbus indie music scene a little more personally, but something else might be going on that is seemingly more sinister than what we're introduced to earlier in the film. So as I said, I really liked this film a lot. For starters, I want to pay compliments to the cinematography. As someone who went to school and loves cinematography and wants to do cinematography work, this film for a debut is gorgeous. The attention to detail and the framing and the lighting and the editing choices is absolutely exceptional. There are so many moments in this film that stick out in my mind, just where the camera is placed and the close personal shots we get of Lennon in particular in specific moments to try to understand her character a little bit more. And then I really like the way that the scenes with the local indie artists are shot. And I think that there's a lot of intentionality in where the camera is placed. And I think that that makes the experience so much more immersive and engaging because of just how beautiful this movie is to look at. I also love the color grading in the film. It's also really cool because there's a lot of places in Columbus this was shot that I frequent, like record stores and different places like that. And so it was really cool to see those places in the middle of a movie like this. And they did a really good job capturing the feeling of that Columbus underground art scene, and I really liked that a lot. The performances in this movie are exceptional. I was actually really impressed with the performances in the film. Sylvie Mix, who plays Lennon, is fantastic. She has a lot to do in this movie, and her character goes through a lot of changes. And I think the way her character progresses through the film and just what she does through like the timidness in her dialogue delivery earlier on in the film to when she starts to get a little bit more confident in herself. I really like how her performance feels so true to what the character is trying to be and what that character is trying to convey. I also really like Bobbi Kitten's performance in this. She is very strong and confident. She's in this music group, and you can tell like she exudes that confidence through her performance. And I think the chemistry between the characters are really great, and I think all the other people involved in the film do a really excellent job as well. But my favorite part of this movie as a whole is I think it's conveying something that a lot of people who want to be creators or artists often go through, and that's that feeling of like imposter syndrome, as like my art will never be as good as this person's art, and will I ever make anything of any sort of quality value? And I think for someone like myself who went to film school and I want to create movies and I want to do things like that, who right now daily upload movie reviews, it's really interesting because in this sort of content creation, there are so many people that do what I do online that make movie reviews. And you're constantly thinking whenever you put these things online, like, how am I differentiating myself from everyone else out there? Am I adding enough to the discourse to really be an important voice? And no matter how confident you are in the decisions that you make or how you put yourself out there or how you deliver your thoughts, you're always going to second guess, am I on par with all of these other people? And I think this movie does a really fantastic job of like that desire and that yearning for creating something, but never necessarily feeling like you're good enough. And it really creates conflicting feelings, especially for someone like myself who loves art and art creation. And I really loved the way that it kind of slowly introduces you to those concepts. And I think Lennon's character is really easy to empathize with early on in the film because of her struggles and what she's going through. This movie does take a pretty drastic tone shift about halfway to three-quarters of the way through the movie, and I liked the direction that it went. But I don't necessarily know how I feel about how the ending complements what I feel like thematically the movie was trying to say earlier on. It's really cool and it's suspenseful, and I really enjoyed the twist, but I really liked where it was going about that imposter syndrome and that feeling of not belonging. And the movie, I don't want to give too much away, but the ending says something that I feel like is a little bit different than that. And it's fine, like whatever they were going for. I just don't think that it works necessarily as strongly for me, at least on initial watch. If I watch it again, I feel like maybe it might work a little bit better now that I know the framework of what I'm getting involved in. But I still think for a directorial debut being filmed in a city like Columbus, Ohio, that isn't necessarily like the biggest film scene, it's incredibly impressive. And it's on Amazon right now on Prime Video. I streamed it for free on Prime Video, and it is 100% worth supporting. It's a really entertaining movie that's very easy to get yourself invested in, and I'm really looking forward to watching it again. So have you seen Poser? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was really entertaining. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I'm really looking forward to watching it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.